Hello, Rolf or Ralph?
Ralph, yeah.
Just regular Ralph. Okay, cool. Um, how long have you been interested in typology?
I would say probably in the last year or so. Um, just I took the test in school a while back, like 10 years
Don't
ago or
tell me what
so.
you got. Don't tell me what you got on it.
Oh yeah, no, I won. But uh,
Okay.
but yeah, I did take it in school and then never really got back into it until just recently. Don't really remember what made me get back into it, but yeah, just started with the 16 personalities website and then uh, just started looking into some of the other tests online and then eventually learned about the cognitive functions and came across the some content creators on YouTube uh, related to MBTI and yeah, just got into it from there.
Okay. So, do you think MBTI best helps you understand yourself, best helps you understand other people, or best helps you understand the nature of reality?
Mm, I mean, I would say it's a bit of all three, but mainly I would say it's pretty equal mix of myself as well as other people. I think that's those are the main reasons I've been into it is to help me understand myself and how my mind works, as well as to understand other people and how their minds work and where they're coming from.
All right, cool. Can you relate to me a series of events that have happened since you got up this morning that aren't of any consequence, but that nevertheless happened in that order? For example, I got up, I went pee, I went into the kitchen and made a new pot of coffee. I thought about the chores I had to do, I played poker, etc. Like boring shit like that. Can you do that for me for your morning?
Yeah. So I woke up um, at 10:30 this morning. Um, I went and made myself some tea. It was black tea with lemon, and then I put two sugars in the tea, brown sugar, and then I had some peach flavored yogurt, and then I had a
Okay,
online.
that's good. That's fine. Can you how good is your that's called like autobiographical memory? How good is it in the sense like could you do the same thing for a day an entire week ago?
Um, no, I
Forgot to take the trash out, sorry.
couldn't do it for a week ago, unless it was like a day where something significant happened. Then I might be able to do it. But even then, like I couldn't tell you like any specific details of like my morning or anything. I would just be able to tell you what happened that was significant that day.
Let's see. Okay. What do you think? What kind of problems do you think you have the least trouble solving?
Hmm, I guess probably like problems related to like a school assignment or a work, like a specific work assignment that's like pretty short term, like go and uh, go and do this specific thing or go do that specific thing. Those sorts of assignments where there's like
That's not
something
really
objective.
solving a problem. Not really solving a problem. It's like when I think about solving a problem. Okay. It's not just following someone else's instruction. It's like maybe somebody comes to you and says, I cannot figure out what's wrong with my brand new meow that I bought. Or maybe they come over and say, I just cannot figure out how to get on Reverend Johnson's good side. Or some such stuff like that.
Mm, I guess, hmm. I mean, I guess it would depend on the situation. Like, if I knew somebody well and somebody asked me, how do I get on this person's good side? I could give them some things they could do, or like, hey, this person really likes when you do this, or something like that. But if I know that person well, um, or if it's like, hey, I have a problem with understanding this assignment at school, or I have a problem, I'm not sure what.
Okay, let me ask this question in a different way. So somebody's going to come to you and they're going to ask you to solve a problem. 4 different people are going to come ask you. You can only choose one of the people's problems to solve, okay?
Okay.
The first person says, I need you to help me schmooze Mary and Joe. The second person says, I need you to help me figure out what's wrong with my brand new appliance. The third person says, I need you to figure out this complicated legal document and what exactly it means. And the fourth person wants you to be extremely passionate about thing, be willing to die on this or whatever. Like she wants, I guess, strategies for. But the fourth one's hard to do. It would be like, instead of complicated legal documents, you need to solve a complicated problem related to the people who were very close to you in your life, like loving them and having to let them go off to maybe fight in a war or something.
Mm.
It's not really
So,
a problem to solve, but you get the first 3 are easily enough, right?
right, yeah, yeah. Uh, so it definitely would not be the how to use an appliance, because I'm not too good with that stuff. Um, it would, hmm, it would be between the schmoozing and the legal document. Um, I guess maybe I would lean slightly towards the legal document, just a little
Okay.
bit.
So do you feel as though you're pretty good at understanding legal arguments and stuff?
Um, I would say I'm okay at it. I mean, I don't have like any formal experience with law, but I would say I can understand it probably decently enough to maybe be able to help someone understand it that doesn't know law much either.
Okay. Can you think of another kind of problem that I haven't mentioned that you might be even better at solving?
Um, maybe like um, if somebody is like hmm, like if somebody is like having trouble, like maybe they have somebody mad at them and they're like not sure why, and they would ask, and they would maybe explain the situation to me, like what they said and the context. I might be able to figure out like what they said or did that made that person upset at them, and kind of
I
explain
see.
it to them. Yeah.
Oh, you probably shouldn't have told her she was a stupid fat cow.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Um, Okay. So can you tell me, and what's the best number of steps to break down the task of taking out the trash into?
Okay, let's see. I would say 4 steps. Um, and then step one would be you take the trash bag out of the trash can. Then step two would be you tie up the bag. Step three, you go and put the trash bag into the dumpster. And then step four would be you replace another trash bag
Okay,
into the trash can.
great, great. Now, can you give me some synonyms for the word mischievous? I'm making a pot of coffee here.
Um, hmm, yeah, maybe silly, um, troublemaking, um, um, rabble rouser. Um,
Okay, cool. That's good. Thank you. Uh, so can you talk to me about which you think is a better rule and why between the platinum rule and the golden rule? You know the difference?
not quite. I don't think so.
The golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The platinum rule is do unto others as they would have you do unto them.
Um, I mean, ideally, I think the platinum rule would be better, even though it's more difficult to figure out. I think overall it's a better rule to follow if possible.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. It would be more difficult, right? You have to kind of ask everybody or
Right.
figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Okay. Let's ask some TI questions now. Can you tell me if some frogs make noise and some things that make noise say ribbit? Is it necessarily the case that some frogs say ribbit?
No, not necessarily.
Correct. Um, if all bananas are curved and some curved things play Parcheesi, is it necessarily the case that some bananas play Parcheesi?
No.
Correct. Who is my mother's husband in relation to me?
My grandpa?
Yeah. Um, can you make up a syllogism question in the form that I did, where, like, for example, if no penguins eat fish and I don't eat fish, am I necessarily a penguin?
Okay. If all trees have leaves, um, and all things that have leaves eat pancakes, is that necessarily the case that all trees eat pancakes?
Yes. All right, good. I really have to go to the bathroom right now. So I'm
Yeah.
going to leave you here for a moment and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm going to give you a very long sentence now that has a lot of redundancies in it. And I'd like you to give me the short nutshell version of it, okay?
Okay.
For people who enjoy both iced tea and lemonade, it's conceivable that they will enjoy as well a combination of these two beverages, which has its own name called an Arnold Palmer, a name that's notoriously difficult to say, but it's simply the mixture of lemonade and iced tea. It's incredibly refreshing and semicolon. It's incredibly refreshing, and you might want to get that if you like either or both of those beverages.
Um, if you like iced tea or lemonade, then you will probably enjoy um, an Arnold Palmer. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's how I would summarize that.
All right, cool, great. I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to tell you a sentence, and I want you to say it first. First normally, and then sarcastically. Okay.
Okay.
The sentence is this: a man and his wife are talking, and their neighbor is going to bring her dog with them on a shared vacation. Well, of course I want them to bring their dog. First say it sincerely, then say it the same words sarcastically.
Okay. Well, of course I want them to bring their dog. Well, of course I want them to bring their dog.
Okay. Let's talk about your media consumption a little bit. When you're not watching instructional videos or things that explain stuff, in other words, when you're not watching a video to learn something, what kind of media are you watching?
Um, I like
Or
watching movies and TV shows, specifically dramas and psychological thrillers would be my favorite types of shows and movies. Um, and then also I enjoy more recently watching professional boxing matches.
Yeah, I like watching boxing too. What is it that you like about boxing?
Um, I mean, I like, I guess, sports when there is just two people competing against each other. It's I find it's easier for me to watch maybe because there's less people to look at, so I could focus in more on what's happening. And I guess I like to some extent like the subjective nature of it in the sense that like I mean there's criteria, but it's also up to like your own interpretation to some degree too, like on certain fights, like who you think won the fight. I guess I kind of like that. It's kind of interesting for me to watch along and score round by round and compare my
Okay,
opinion with others.
okay, cool. Um, what do you think informs your understanding of the world more, your experience or your instincts?
Mm, probably my experience.
Okay. What if I were to ask the question, what do you think informs your worldview more, your experience or your intuition? Would you still have the same answer?
Um, no, maybe then I would say intuition.
Okay. So I'm going to give you an example of a time when I used SI when I should have used NI. Okay.
Hmm.
The other day, I was driving along the road and it was a curve in the road. And abruptly, I noted there was a turtle walking across the road. I really obviously didn't want to hit the turtle. So I tried to maneuver my car. I couldn't get out of the way completely of him, but I tried to maneuver so I'd go over him, wasn't and not have any of the wheels touch him.
Hmm.
And then after I did that, I looked in the rearview mirror and I saw that he wasn't walking across the road anymore, which I had envisioned seeing. I had sort of imagined ahead of time that I'd see him walking across the road if I had successfully done that. And relying on that imagined memory, I assumed I had run him over and I felt really bad about it, even though I never felt any bump or anything. And I told Rachel about it after a couple of days. I couldn't even tell her about it at first because it was so sad, right? I told her about it after a couple of days and she said, well, maybe it just pulled his head in and stuff because the car drove over it. I was
Hmm.
like, oh, yeah, duh, that's super possible. So I used my SI In other words, what I imagined was going to happen was within my memory. Instead of NI, why might this happen? That I have not felt a bump, but have also do not see the turtle still walking across the road. So that's because I'm an SI user. I tend to fail to use NI like that. Can you give me an equivalent example for you?
So when I used an example where I use SI instead of NI?
Or vice versa. But the point is, it should be the wrong choice. Like, uh, when I use NI, it's rarely the wrong choice because I'm an SI user. But I guess an NI example would be like, well, Rachel, for example, she when when my dad died, there were a bunch of magnets on the fridge that he had collected over the years from this realtor named Janet. And Rachel intuited that after my dad had died, that we should get that realtor to sell the house because that must have been my dad's wishes because he had all those magnets up. But she didn't explain the reasoning behind it because it was just her intuition that would be a good realtor to call us. He's got so many magnets with her name on it. And of course, she was not a good realtor. And I explained to Rachel eventually, you don't get it because you're using NI, which seems to be an obvious connection. Bunch of magnets say Janet, you must like Janet. You got her magnets all over the fridge. My dad did not have any intuition. He just liked to put magnets on the fridge. And she just sent him a shit ton of magnets. So she was trying to use her NI to conclude what realtor we should use when SI, if my SI was more informative, right? I know my dad. He just liked to stick magnets on things.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be an example of using NI when you should use SI.
Okay. Let's see. Hmm. I'm having trouble thinking of an example off the top of my head.
Okay. It's not surprising. The reason I can come up with examples for both is because they're my 4-5. Typically, you can only really come up with examples for both if it's your 4-5. All right. Can you tell me about your childhood in any great detail, or do you just remember the salient events that were relevant and meaningful?
Um, yeah, I mean, I could go into some detail about it. I guess, do you want me to just start talking about it, or
Yeah, how about fifth grade?
fifth grade? Okay. Um, well, fifth grade, I went to a um, small private school in a small town um, in my state, and I think there was only about 10 people in my class. Um, I like
What was your teacher's name?
uh, it was Mrs. Cody. What's her name?
Okay,
Uh,
and can you remember where her classroom was relative to the other ones? Do you have a visual picture of that?
um, yeah, it was when you walk into the school, uh, you go up the steps, and I believe her classroom was right straight across. Like you would just walk straight across, and her classroom was like in the back, the room in the very back, and then there was other classrooms to the side.
Okay, cool. Can you tell me how you changed from fifth grade to say 11th grade as over those years? Just like between I was a fifth grader. Obviously, I was maybe like prepubescent. Obviously, 11th grade, I'm postpubescent. But besides that physical change, how did you change as a person?
Let's see. So I became a little bit less naive, um, and a little bit less, I guess, trusting of like people, a little bit more skeptical, and more able to like think more critically about things, and also better, just better, a better student, better at school stuff, and just
More conscientious.
yeah, more conscientious, and just just like more,
Okay, I got you.
yeah,
I got you.
yeah.
So, what's something precious to you?
Um, Having a peaceful environment.
Okay. Uh, is that because you've always had a peaceful environment, or because you've not usually had a peaceful environment?
Um, More because whenever I've not had a peaceful environment, um, it's affected me negatively or badly, and so I would like to preserve the peaceful environment based on that.
Okay. Can you talk to me about your relationship with procrastination?
Yeah. So when it comes to more short-term things that are more clear, where there's like a clear goal and it's specific. Um, so like a school assignment or a work assignment would be good examples. I am and where there is like a clear deadline as well. I'm pretty good about that, and I usually get the work done uh, probably earlier than most people do. Um, but when it comes to more longer term things, um, and specifically more like things that are more personal to me and more, I guess, real world application oriented, like um, finding like a romantic partner or moving out and finding my own place to live. That's the sort of stuff I would procrastinate on for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Those big things are a little easier to procrastinate on. Uh, okay. So, like, here's an example of something that makes me mad at myself. So let's say I've got to pick up this kind of heavy round coffee table and move it across the room. I pick it up, I go across the room, and I realize, oh no, there's this thing in my way. I should have moved this out of the way first. That's an example of something that makes me go, Eric, you dumbass. Why do you always do this shit? Stop doing that. Can you come up with an equivalent example for yourself of something, whatever it might be?
Yeah, let's see. I mean, it would be something where I would forget to do something, uh, even though I wrote it down to do it. Um, so like, hmm, maybe like I had a certain appointment at a certain time, and I wrote it down on like a sticky note and put it on my table, but I never looked at the sticky note. And when the day came, I just forgot about it. Uh,
Can you
yeah, that,
normally rely on a habit of reminding yourself over and over again that you have this thing coming up? Like for me, I reminded myself and Rachel multiple times since yesterday that this morning at 11, I have a typing session. And even then, I was going into town and I was like, okay, actually, oh shit. No, okay, we can make it in town. I can make it back in time. Okay. But I don't know if you do that or not. Do you remind yourself in your head or out loud all frequently about stuff that you have to do? Or do you write it down and rely on your calendar to tell you what to do?
I write it down, but I would say most of the time, if it's like important enough to me, I will remember it automatically as it comes closer to the date. Like I'll anticipate it in my head.
Okay. When you're just kind of daydreaming, maybe lying down to go to sleep, or just sitting around twiddling your thumbs, nothing to do, are you more likely to be, if you're in a state of somewhat distress, is it more likely to be you're stuck in bad memories from the past, or you're stuck in anxiety about the future?
Stuck in anxiety about the future.
Okay. And if you're daydreaming good daydreams, is it more about um I'm loving reminiscing these good memories, or I'm loving imagining this exciting future?
Mm, it can be both, but probably. Mm, so you're saying between those two options?
Yeah, like okay, well, when you're remembering things, when you're reminiscing, is it a bad experience? Like you're thinking about bad memories, maybe having the shame shivers and or feeling guilt or regret? Or is it mostly a positive time where you're thinking, oh, that time at Aunt B's when we shared that pie was so wonderful?
Um, I mean, I guess it depends on my mood in the moment. Like if I'm in a relaxed, good mood, I might think of something in the past where I did something well or something went well or a positive experience. But if I'm in like a not so good mood, uh, I might think about negative stuff from the past.
Okay. Do you choose music to match your mood or to make your mood?
Um, to match my mood, I think.
Okay. Do you listen to a lot of music?
Um, not really. No, not so much.
Okay. Uh, have you ever heard the troll question?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, I won't ask it then. I'm gonna give you a story starter, and I'd like you to finish the story for me. Okay.
Okay.
Once there was a tall redwood tree in the forest, and his name, who knows what his original name was, but he'd been nicknamed Red for so long. That's what everybody in the forest called him, you know. And one day, this deer, whose name was conveniently Bambi, was walking through the forest and noticed that Red was arguing with a squirrel in the tree, whose name was conveniently Squirrely. So Bambi says, "Hey, Red, Squirrely, what's going on?" Now you finish the story.
Um, so Red explains to Bambi um, that he's having trouble sleeping at night because Squirrely, um, when they go to eat their nuts, they chew super loudly for some reason, and they're having insomnia. They can't sleep, so they're asking Squirrely if she can chew a little bit quieter. And Squirrely just got really offended at that, and basically told him that he's being too sensitive about it, and that he should get some earplugs. And yeah, basically that's how the argument started. And Bambi just listened to that and just said, well, told Squirrely to go grab some nuts to chew them, so we could find out how loud she actually chews.
Okay. All right, that's good. That's not, um, let me ask you. Can you talk to me about your sleeping habits?
Yeah, I would say normally on average I would get about 7 hours of sleep a night, maybe 7.5, somewhere in there. Normally, if I don't have to get up early in the morning, I'm pretty much a night owl. I prefer to wake up late, like around noon, noon or so, and then go to bed late, maybe around 4, yeah, around 4 o'clock in the morning. That's kind of my normal routine if I don't have to get up early to go anywhere. But like if I have work early in the morning or something earlier, then I would adjust, try to adjust to go to bed earlier in that case. But my
How
default,
many hours a night total do you think you need?
uh, need, I would say at least 6.
Okay. Want 8?
Yeah, 1 to 8. Yeah.
Okay. How does not getting enough sleep affect you?
Um, it, I do feel that it affects me. Like, mm, well, actually, I guess it depends. Like sometimes I wouldn't get that much sleep, but I wouldn't really feel it that much. Like I'll still be able to function pretty well. But then other times, if I don't get enough sleep, I will feel it affect me. Like it'll be harder for me to focus, um, and I'll just feel more tired and less energetic. I guess for some reason it just depends on the day whether it affects me or not when I wake up.
Okay. And how about your eating habits? Do you eat 3 square a day? Do you graze? What's going on with that?
Um, I don't really eat too many snacks. Yeah, I don't eat much of a breakfast. Usually just tea and maybe some yogurt or something and some coffee. But then for like lunch and dinner, I eat more of like a proper meal for lunch and dinner.
Okay. Do you make coffee in the morning?
Yeah, I try to. Yeah.
Do you make it exactly the same way every day?
Um,
Like, do you have
yeah.
a specific like first I put the yeah, then I put the yeah, then I put the yeah, and bam, bam.
I mean, I just use a Keurig cups, so
Oh,
it's
you use Keurig. Okay.
yeah.
Like for me, with the coffee making, I get the pot, put it under the water, let it start filling up. Then I take the old grounds and throw them in the trash can, put 2 new paper towels in, and pour the coffee in, hopefully before the pot's filled up with water for maximum efficiency.
Mm.
Anywho, you didn't need to know that. Um, so what causes you to lose respect for somebody more? Would it be if a person never has anything original to say and just keeps kind of repeating themselves? Or would it be a person procrastinates a whole bunch and never gets anything done?
Mm, probably the person that procrastinates too much.
Okay. And what would make you more angry at yourself? Or, not more angry. So, what would evoke a stronger response from you? And what would that response be? If somebody told you you were being unfair, or if somebody told you you were being inefficient?
Um, if somebody told me I was being unfair.
Okay. And what about if I asked the question, if somebody told you you were being unfair versus somebody telling you you are not caring enough about something or someone?
Mm, that's a tough one. Um, I guess it depends on the context to some degree, but I would lean towards being more upset about the uncaring part.
Okay. What do you think gives you more of, what are you more afraid of? Failing on the grounds of relevance, or failing on the grounds of a preparation?
Mm. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so are you more afraid that in a given context where a lot of stuff was talked about, you think you understand it, but you might actually miss the whole main point of the thing? Are you more afraid that that might happen, or are you more afraid that you're going to show up to this thing without having practiced enough, without being prepared?
Um, Probably the lack of preparation would be more of a concern, or yeah.
Okay. What I'm asking though is, are you more scared of yourself failing to prepare, or missing something salient?
Mm, still probably failing to prepare.
Okay, so you think that some of the time, if you know, if you got some deadline coming down the line and some presentation to give for whatever reason, that you might just kind of not prep it and just kind of wing it on the day of the thing?
Um, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't like to do that, but more of like a fear maybe that something will happen that I didn't anticipate or that I didn't prepare for that maybe I should have in retrospect.
Okay. Okay, so that's the salient point, missing the salient point, right? What you just described was fearing missing the main point. You're not scared that you weren't going to prepare, but that in your preparation you missed something important, right?
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, that's true, yeah.
Okay. So and then oh, okay, so do you think what do you think makes you feel ashamed of yourself, if you're unkind to someone or socially awkward?
Mm, unkind to someone.
Okay. What makes you more angry? When somebody insists on schmoozing when that's not going to get the work done, or when somebody is being legalistic about stuff and getting in the way of stuff getting done because they're parsing the language too much, um, instead of knowing what they authentically want and going and getting it.
Hmm. Can you give me an example of the schmoozing scenario?
Sure. So it would be like, okay, we're on a tight schedule here today. I need you over here doing this for this long, and you over here doing this for this long. And one of the people says, "Well, how about instead of me doing that, I go try to recruit some other hands to help us. I'll go talk to Joe and Bob, and maybe they'll help us.
Hmm.
But let's pretend it doesn't work, okay? And he doesn't get more helping hands. Is that going to make you more mad, or is what was the other thing I said? Or is social awkwardness going to make you more mad? Those are the two things I should have compared. Is somebody else being socially awkward going to make you more mad?
I guess in what context, like what would be an example of the socially awkward scenario?
Telling a succession of bad jokes that nobody's laughing at and everybody wishes that they'd stop telling them.
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, and is the context the same? Like we're trying to get work done, or
No, the context's not the same.
okay,
In that instance, you're trying to have fun.
okay.
So
Um,
in both instances, the problem is contrary to what you're trying to do.
okay, okay. Um, I mean, yeah, I guess probably the schmoozing then, because there's more of like a direct consequence with something not getting, with like a work thing not getting done.
Okay, cool. Um, Let me think if there's anything else I want to double check on. I believe I know what type you are, but I just want to see if there's anything else to double check here. Which would you rather drown, a puppy or a kitten, and why?
Um, I mean, I guess neither would be great, but um,
It's the kitten puppy terrorist, though. He's got you at gunpoint. He makes people do this. He gets a random person, he pulls them off the street, he holds them at gunpoint and says, "Pick one of these to drown. Pick one of these adorable little creatures to drown."
um, I guess I would go with the puppy then. I guess.
Okay, any reason why?
Um, only that I'm more of a cat person in general.
Okay,
That's the
cool,
only reason.
cool. Um, can you think of something you find it hard to be objective about?
Mm,
My phone's about to.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think I can find it hard to be objective about anything like anything that affects me personally or that in some way touches my like my feelings or emotions in some sense. Um, but
Would you say that the absence of emotions is objectivity?
the absence of emotions is objectivity.
Is objectivity? Would you say that subjectivity is being emotional and objectivity is being unemotional?
Mm, Yeah, I think I would, yeah.
Okay, I'm ready to tell you what type you are. I'm very confident about my typing of you here,
Hmm.
but I also suspect I might get a little pushback, and you're always welcome to push back and say, but what about this? What about that? Is perfectly fine.
Okay.
So I have you typed as an ISTJ,
Hmm.
and there's a number of reasons for that, but uh, it's pretty clear you are an SI user, not an NI user, and you test positive for FE polar. Your TI and your TE are both solid, which is consistent with 2.6. And you understand, and there's a lot of different reasons. But what type do you think you might be coming in?
Um, I mean, I was between a number of different types, but I was leaning towards INFJ actually.
Okay. Well, INFJs cannot do those questions like break down the trash taking out into the optimal number of steps. You'd be shocked at how much difficulty they have with it. If I say break down the trash in 5 steps, an INFJ will go, well, first you need to know where your trash can is. And then they start talking and you go, what step are you on? Oh, I forgot about the steps.
Right.
And
Well,
that's what you give T polar.
like for that example, the trash example, I think it was something like I had already heard you ask a while back, so maybe I kind of had that in the back of my
Okay.
mind, perhaps.
You could do another task. Break walking a dog down into 4 steps.
Okay. Um, Step one would be put the leash on the dog. Um, Step two, you go outside with the dog. Step three, you walk the dog around. Step four, you bring the dog back inside and take its leash off.
Yeah, I shit you not. And I know this is hard to believe. And INFJ, they consistently, and ISFJs consistently cannot do what you just did.
Hmm.
They're unable to do it. And the other thing is we can eliminate INFJ and ISFJ because you're definitely not TE polar. You're also definitely not TI polar. So that eliminates ESFP and ENFP. You, I'm sure you get along well with people and believe that you have, good clarity about emotions regarding those people. And that's not inconsistent with FI third slot. FI third slot is one where you're going to find that you really scored in life when you're loving somebody, doing something that helps them and nice for them that they appreciate. You know, I'm not great at talking about FI because I'm FI polar, so it's a little bit confusing to me. Just it's slippery because it's not very describable. It's your own authentic wants and needs and stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I think you're consistent with FI third. When I ask you like what might make you mad, you went with you went with or make you defensive or whatever the question was. You went with being accused of being unfair, and that's consistent with 6 slot TI. And when I asked you about like what are you going to be more afraid of, um, you gave me the NI answer, which means 8 slot. So, and these are kind of new things that I've incorporated there, but everything else is consistent as well.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I think I didn't think that my SI was that strong. Um, like I felt like I don't have like a photographic memory, or like I have trouble remembering things vividly a lot of the time. Like, yeah, I just didn't think it was that particularly strong.
Well, the other thing that SI does besides keep track of where you've been and what you've done is it makes you aware of how your body feels and whether you've got an ache or a pain, whether you need more sleep or don't need more sleep, whether you're hungry, whether you're going to be hungry in 45 minutes, so you should start cooking now, or, versus I'm perfectly fine. Oh my God, I'm starving. I need food now. So you should be more the former than the latter. And SI is also about muscle memory. I don't know if you play any musical instruments or anything.
No, I don't.
Okay, muscle memory is also for typing on the keyboard and stuff. But there's a lot of different kinds of muscle memory. Like, for example, if you play a sport, swing a baseball bat, any kind of physical stuff that you do repetitively, you can do it automatically with your hands without having to think about it at all, right? That's also your SI.
Hmm.
And ultimately an SI Dom does normally express more engagement with the past than you're conveying to me. But I think I've more or less eliminated everything else.
Okay. Yeah, I was also thinking my SC was pretty bad, honestly.
Well, it's fifth slot. So the thing is, you're a receiving type if you're an ISTJ. That means your most native state of being is receiving information from your body, from your experiences, whatever. Whereas extroverted sensing is an action function. So you're going to understand extroverted sensing from a receiver's perspective, which means you're going to judge other people when they have bad extroverted sensing. And that's exactly what you told me when I asked, what's going to be more annoying to you? The guy who says the boring stuff and repeats himself, or the guy who procrastinates a bunch? Because procrastinating is the opposite of good SE. And repeating yourself and being boring is the opposite of good NE.
Hmm.
So fifth slot is how you judge the external world. Your answer there told me you judge the external world via SE. You might perceive your FE as bad, but I can tell you from some of your answers, it's a million times better than mine.
My SC, you said?
Yeah,
Oh.
because it's like, I mean, we bought a house a year ago, over a year ago now, a year and 4 months ago, with the intent of getting it ready for a rental property. I am now rushing to finish painting it a year and 4 months later to resell the house because I can't do shit at all. I can't get myself to do anything. I have no self-discipline. I except things like this where if I don't, then somebody else is going to be mad at me. Then I'll do it because it's like, okay, I can't forget that, or else then Ralph Jadopat will be mad at me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I lack self-discipline as well, like in more things that are like longer term and practical. So like getting my own place, for example, and that sort of stuff.
Well, yeah, uh, sure. But the other thing is, you have to wonder whether you're comparing against the ideal or comparing against other people.
Mm. Well, I think I'm comparing against other people too. Um, like other people my own age that like are renting a place or something or have a house. So,
Well, ISTJs typically have fairly modest ambitions. They're comfortable and satisfied with, you know, uh, having enough money and time to do their things.
mhm. Okay. Um, and then for the FE, I guess the sarcasm test tested polar. Okay.
Yeah, you couldn't have done any worse on it.
Okay.
Both of those things sounded perfectly normal. Like
Oh, did they?
the first one, of course well, I forget the exact sentence, but it's like, of course I'm happy that she's bringing her dog with her. First one would be like, well, of course I'm happy she's bringing that dog with her. The second one would be like, oh, of course I'm happy she's bringing the dog with her. That's sarcastic, you know? So yours both sounded straightforward. When you
Okay.
do you find that when you try to use sarcasm, people don't pick up on the fact that you're being sarcastic?
Um, I don't really use sarcasm much, but yeah, I would say so. That's probably true. That if I were to use it, people couldn't really tell. Yeah.
Right. Right.
I mean, I can tell when other people are being sarcastic, but yeah, I guess not so much conveying it myself.
All right, cool. So would you like me to uh share this with you privately, or are you comfortable with me publishing?
Um, Maybe share it with me privately.
Okay, sure, no problem. And if you change your mind, you can always let me know.
Okay. I did have one more question.
Sure.
Um, so I think you've mentioned that before that like SI and NI are knowing functions. So those that have that dominant know things first. Um, I always had a question like how you before you can know something, don't you have to first like deliberate about it first in your mind? Like,
No, that's a misconception. Knowing and determining are different ways of paying attention. And the distinction between the two things is that knowing is instantaneous and deliberation is not. So I know 2 + 2 = 4 without having to go, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, because I've memorized it. So I know it, right? I know that Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492 because I remember it. I don't have to do any calculations. In contrast, I don't know who my sister's mother's husband's mother's husband is in relation to me without figuring it out. I mean, I do in that instance because I made the thing. But if
right.
you had made the thing, yeah,
So,
it's your grandfather, by the way.
okay. So would somebody that has like FI and TI first, they would have to deliberate on like everything then?
Yeah. So if you have FI or TI first, and then NE in the second slot, extroverted intuition in the second slot, then you think you should always talk it out more and never actually reach a decision and do anything. Because your tool function is let's talk it out more. If you have FI or TI paired with SE, however, then instead of determining what's precious in the like INFP and then ideating about it, or what's correct and then ideating and philosophizing about it, as with the INTP, you're going to get with ISTP. Um, does this hold up to scrutiny? What I'm going to do here, like for an uh, ESTP, they're going to be like, what matters is that I don't look bad. So is this going to make me look bad, right? But um, no, ISTP, sorry.
Yeah.
ISTP is going to be able to figure out what's correct and probably therefore not do it, but also be able to pull the trigger in circumstances when they need to. Because TI is mostly negating, right? So like I knew an ISTP kid who, when his friend started getting like pushed around at this bar because he was being belligerent or something, Colin, he was the ISP, he just fucking cold cocked one of the main guys and maybe broke his nose and then grabbed everybody else and just bolted out of there and led the escape, you know? So an INTP or an INFP would never do that.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
And then for my NE, so you don't think it's polar?
No, I think it's fourth. I think it's textbook fourth.
Okay, interesting. And then for FE polar, I was thinking, wasn't that also mean that like that person doesn't really care about group harmony and kind of?
No, it doesn't mean that. Both FE and TE are ways of solving problems. FE says, let me ask Joe, and or let me look it up on the internet. TE says, let me look at the actual thing and see if I can figure out what's wrong with it. So if you find that you solve your own problems, you're probably TE, or at least FE, like FE third. I'm loath to go FE to solve problems because I'm 6-slot TE demonstrative, even though I'm not very good at it, and I should ask other people. My FE third means that's my high priority as a scorecard. I don't want to look bad or something, you know.
Yeah, I do prefer to at least try to do it myself before asking others.
Yeah, so that's really the distinction between TE and the fact that FE deals with a dynamic communicative system, namely other people and their emotions and their wants and needs and stuff, whereas TE deals with non-communicative systems. So, for example, how a refrigerator works.
Right.
You know, there'll still be plenty of words involved, but it's not a communicative system that you're engaging with.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I had the misconception that like FE was really that having FE polar meant like you just said whatever was on your mind and were kind of blunt and didn't care like about.
I find people care a lot. I find people put themselves in somebody else's shoes. That's the textbook FE move is I'm going to put myself in somebody else's shoes. And how would I feel if this were happening to me? And I wouldn't feel very good. And so it's not very nice of you to do that. Whereas I am going to interpret it as, is this person's level of upsetness justified by some specific wrongdoing or behavior that they can articulate? You know, I expect their emotions to be justified. So, of course, that's wrong of me, but equivalently, you'd expect people to not use FE, the stick part of it, like giving somebody a subtle burn or something, you know, like a little bit of an insult so that you can raise up in hierarchy. That kind of catty FE shit is going to bug you a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
But ultimately, it's an absolute value for you, which means you want to be perceived well, liked by others, and capable of engaging and capable of navigating that communicative dynamic system. It's just if you're going to get there, it might be late in life. Like I'm getting more acquainted with my FI. I'm still at the same stack. I still default to everything, but because I have the intellectual framework, I can kind of note like, okay, this is FI, I think, going on over here.
Okay, interesting.
It's a good question, and I think that was a good answer too. So if you do change your mind, let me know because I think I said a lot of good things on this, so it would be cool if you publish it. Normally, I don't care at all if I publish, but
I guess one
This
thing,
is
like
informative.
if you were to publish, would there be a way to like bl blank out my last name or anything like
Oh yeah,
that?
yeah, I could do that. I could do that, and I can cut out. I think I said Jado Pad at one point, but you didn't.
Yeah,
But it's actually Jadu Pat.
yeah.
Okay, so I'll try to find that spot where I say it, and I'll try to cut that out too, so that it's not present visually or auditorily.
Okay, yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so I'll share it with you privately first, and then if I get around to doing that editing stuff, then I'll publish it. Is that cool?
Yeah, yeah, then that would be good. Yeah,
Okay, cool. So thanks very much for your business. I
yeah,
hope you enjoy the typing session,
yeah.
and
Thanks a lot.
and and have a nice day.
Yeah, thanks. You as well.
All right, bye.
Bye. Take care.